Today, I want to talk about my top 5 Stephen King books. Now that I have read all of his novels, I have sort of settled on at least a temporary top 5. I feel like this is something that always changes as soon as you start revisiting things. And, I have a mix of classics and a variety of some newer stuff. And, I'll just start off here with the most recent of my favorites, which is Later. Now, this could very possibly be recency bias, but this is his latest hard case crime novel. It's only about 250 pages, which for you Stephen King fans out there, you know that 250 pages are very hard to come by when it comes to Stephen King books. Most are much, much longer than that. And, I just really loved how this tied into the whole Stephen King universe by the end of it. I don't want to give any spoilers away since this one is more recent, but I just really love the character work. King is very, very good at writing children and preteen characters, in my opinion. At least that's what I have enjoyed about a lot of his work, frankly. And, I guess I'll just kind of go in backwards order here and, you know, talk about 11/22/63 next, because even though there aren't really kids in this, I mean, there are because a school is involved. But as far as our main characters go, you have a ton of great character work in this one as well. It is long. I believe my mass market paperback copy is about 1,100 pages, 1,000 pages, something like that. It's not a short one, and it's probably about this thick on my shelf. So you're in for a long ride there. But the way it incorporates dairy in the beginning of the story and then takes you to Texas and sort of runs through this alternate history and what if moment, basically, is something that I enjoyed way, way more than I ever expected to, frankly. And I think, if you have the time and you haven't read this one yet, it's definitely well worth a read. And, now we're going to get into the classics. And these aren't in any order. I'm basically going in reverse chronological order because I read pretty much everything in chronological order for my podcast, Chat Cemetery, which you can check out at the link in the show description. And I really, really have so many classics that I did enjoy a lot, but it is one of the other ones that just captured my attention. And even though it is not a perfect book by any means, it is still one of my favorites. And anyone who has read it knows exactly what moment I am talking about. That is certainly not perfect. It shouldn't have been okay then, and it definitely is not okay now. But I think because there's so much meat to that book, you have so much more that you can enjoy that, one flaw, even though it's a pretty big one, in my opinion, didn't really kill the entire mood of the book for me because it did come so close to the end as well. I think that sort of saved it for me. And the Losers Club, some of my favorite characters that King has ever written. And, they're kids who feel extremely relatable. Granted, I didn't grow up as a kid in the 50s by any means, and I did not have nearly as much freedom as they did when I was a kid, but you really just sort of feel what they are feeling when you are reading the book, both with them as kids and as adults. And I think that works really, really well. And, a couple more classics here. Pet Cemetery, one of my absolute favorite endings from King. And, to be honest, I'm a little bummed that neither movie used the ending from the book because King endings are hit or miss, which a lot of King fans know. There are endings we love, endings we don't love, and there are books we don't love and books we love, obviously, which is why I'm doing my top 5 here. But the way that Pet Cemetery just handles grief and handles fear, even, it's so well done. And I think you have such a small group of characters in that in comparison to even something like it. Even though the Losers Club is not big, there are a lot of other characters who come into play in those stories, whether it's parents or bullies or things like that. But Pet Cemetery really is sort of just this family story, and you have one neighbor who comes into play and one person who is pretty much dead the whole time. So you don't have too many characters that you need to pay too close attention to, which I think works really, really well. And, you know, there are plenty of King stories that sort of have these smaller casts of characters, and you really get to just focus on a handful of people. But again, the way he handles grief in Pet Sematary is just absolutely astounding, and it is one of my favorites by far. And last but not least, by any means, is The Shining. This is one that I did not reread when I first started Chat Cemetery, and I'm wishing I had, but it's just one of those stories that I feel like once you read it, it really sticks with you. And it doesn't have to be a favorite necessarily, but I think the way he makes the Overlook Hotel a character really, really hooked me, because you have this family going there, they're isolated, and this really is sort of the haunted house story that I think a lot of people love to get, because even though it's a hotel, I feel like with haunted house stories, the best ones are the ones where you feel like the house is its own character. It has sort of its own personality, and it has these characteristics that just make it so spooky. And he really nails that with the Overlook Hotel. So there you have it, my top 5 King novels. I have read all of them, so it won't be until 2022 until I have another one to read, which is kind of weird to think about, because I've spent the last 3 years reading pretty much all of his novels, and I am really looking forward to this break, to be honest. So again, that podcast is Chat Cemetery. There's a link in the show description. You can check it out there. And if you like this video, hit the like button, share it, hit the subscribe button, get notified when I have new videos out, and that is all I have for you today. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.